Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're going to be talking about how to build and how to execute a scientific qualification process. Now, great sessions. Love the topic of account-based everything, sales, marketing, sales development, customer success. We're going to just take a small piece of that. Before I jump in, this is me. I'm Gabe Larsen. I'm the director of InsideSales.com Labs. I'd be offended if you don't add me on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Twitter. If you haven't checked out our Sales Acceleration podcast, it's great. We'd love for you to join the conversation and participate. With that, let's get into it. So here's an analogy. Let's just go through kind of a quick story. You don't have to close your eyes or anything, but you're sitting at your desk. You're maybe daydreaming, thinking about buying a new car. All of a sudden, your phone rings. And it's a sales rep. You say hello. Sales rep says, "Hey, John, it's Andrew with Service Source. How are you?" You say, "Good." Sales rep then says, "Not bad. Thanks for asking. Do you have budget to purchase a CRM?" You think, what does this guy mean? What, you mean personally me or my company? Sales rep then says, "Do you have the authority to buy a CRM?" Now, you might still be thinking about that car, but you say, "No, I don't. I'm just a sales rep here, sales manager." Sales rep then says, "Okay, do you believe you need a CRM?" You then say, "Are you serious? Not to be, no, I don't think so. I think we have one." Sales rep then says, "Are you looking to buy today?" You say, "You mean, honestly, this is getting weird, man. I think I probably need to move on." Now, something just doesn't feel right, so you end up hanging up the phone and begin to shake your head as you think about what the heck just happened. What you just experienced was Bant. Now, psychologists refer to it as being Banted. It's a disorder where one is left feeling confused and often dismayed. Maybe all kidding aside, Bant is a qualification model. A lot of us have heard of it. You probably heard of it. Some of you probably overheard of it. It was developed by IBM in the 1960s to help their salespeople, qualified leads, determine which prospects they should work with and which ones they shouldn't. Now, Bant is an acronym. It is budget, authority, need, and timing. So IBM trained their salespeople to start asking questions about budget first, right? So do you have the money? Before they went any further. Next, they would question to find a decision maker with authority to progress the sale. They may not have budget, but no authority meant no sale. Then they questioned for need. If you don't have need, probably not going to buy. And lastly, after qualifying for money and decision-making authority, and capability need, then they looked for urgency. How soon could you actually make a decision? So Bant to some has started to seem a little outdated, but it still is widely used by a lot of organizations, and a lot of people feel like it's a little bit of a pressure sales, more manipulation to buyers. So you've had this concept that Bant is dead, and you need to move to something else. Now, now that you understand a little bit about, let's talk about how it shifted into Anim. And Anim is kind of the new model. Most organizations have shifted to this. Now, I want to ask a lot of people who are considering Bant, how are we even using a model from 1960? I don't even know. I think maybe my parents were born in 1960. I mean, cars from 1960 don't work anymore. It's definitely out of style. How did a concept developed in 1960 still be valid today? If you go Google Bant is dead, you're going to find hundreds of blog posts and articles. Our friend Trish Bertuzzi wrote one such article. I believe it was in, God, when was that, Trish? Maybe 2010, echoing the idea that Bant is dead. It was something about get rid of Bant and go to something else. She argued, though, I remember, that the selling environment had changed. And now with websites and social media available to educate buyers, the initial stages of the sales cycle were really in the hands of the buyer. She had such a great joke. I am attributing this to Trish, but she said, trying to get to Bant on a qualification call is like asking to see W-2 on the first date. I still love that one. You've seen a lot more of that stuff come to fruition now. CEB says buyers are now 57% of the way toward a buying decision when they first make contact with the salesperson. A lot of people want to debate that. I think there is a lot of truth to that, but the fact is that, there is something wrong with it. we probably need to do something different. And that is where Ken Krogh, founder and president of InsightSales.com, came in and really established the concept of ANUM. Now, ANUM is authority, need, urgency, and money. And I don't want to go too much into this now because I want to get into the concept of build. I want to get into something tactical. You know, so often we talk about the concepts and the principles. I do want to get into how you actually apply ANUM. Because a lot of people want to come up with new models, but they never actually come up with a way to actually apply. So let's actually get into the application. But ANUM flips it on its head. You start with authority, go to need, urgency, and money. They're still applicable concepts. You may not get all of them in a qualification, but the more you can get, the better you are. And so getting a structured process around this and getting reps, sales development reps, sales reps to be thinking about ANUM in a tactical way is going to be a game changer. You know, I was with a sales rep the other day. He said, Gabe, I just don't know how to apply ANUM. And that's what I want to solve today. So with that, let's get into building a qualification model. How do you apply ANUM? Well, here you go. This is probably the best way to do it. To start, we got to build what I call a qualification table. To do that, most reps determine what are the optimal characteristics of a successful account and contact. And then they determine where they can find that information. Now, most reps start by looking at past data. They review or reflect on what customers have purchased and which customers have been successful. One of the main questions or main issues with reps is they feel they have to ask to get all the information in their qualification approach. When in reality, if you're a sales rep or sales manager, you might be able to do research on a lot of your qualification questions and then only ask the ones that are pertinent. Only ask the questions you need to ask. I can't stress that enough. Nothing looks worse than a rep who doesn't bother finding out the person's title before he or she makes the phone call and some of the other basic information there. So, let's go through this. Let's see if we can actually kind of build this out. Let's do a brainstorming exercise. Now, I wouldn't probably do this on my own. I would recommend getting an account executive, you know, some people from marketing, other sales development. Get a group together, and then you want to ask these 5 questions. Number 1, what characteristics of an account or contact predict the likelihood of somebody buying from us, purchasing? Number 2, is this characteristic referring to the company or to the contact? Number 3, is this characteristic categorized as authority, need, urgency, or money? Next is, where could we get access to this type of information? And then lastly, what are the detailed attributes of this characteristic? I always like to order them in importance. And guys, I am getting tactical here, but again, I actually have to do this stuff, so you know, why not show you what I do and what I coach people to help them be effective? Because I am a doer. I'm not kind of just the talking guy. Anyways, let's get into the first part. Okay, brainstorming authority. Authority is understanding who buys from you and what role they play. So let's just go through an example here. And this is fictitious, but function. Here's a great question. What function in a business buys from us? Well, we call this title function. In this business that we're looking at here, if someone resides in the function of sales, IT, or operations, they are more likely to buy from us. Now notice I've organized them in that pattern. Next is what level. This is a great question. What level are they in the organization? We call this title level. Now this level thing kind of refers to where they fit into an organizational structure. This means, are they a manager, a director, vice president, etc. In this example, the company could work with all levels, but focus on higher levels. They typically had more decision-making authorities. You got director, VP, SVP there. Lastly, you'd say, okay, what role do they play in the buying process? Are they a decision maker or an influencer or a champion? Knowing what role they play in the buying group really helps you know how you're going to best interact with them. Now, these are just 3 sample areas to include in a qualification table. These have been proved to be very predictive characteristics in many clients I've worked with, and there are a lot of them that are the basics. But it really helps to understand what the characteristics are. Again, object, are we talking about the account or the contact? ANUM, where you're actually going to get that information, and then break those pieces down. Great. Now we got authority. Let's just go quickly through some need points. So how do we know if a company needs us? And again, we're in a group here. We're brainstorming. So let's think through some of these. Industry. Okay, that's a good one. Industry is always a great prediction if someone is a good client for us or not. Now, what industry do your ideal customers come from? Most people can narrow this down pretty quickly. Now, looking at data, let's say this company found this factor to be pretty predictive, and the top 3 industries were software, finance, and education. Great. Now, stated need. Do they need us or not? I often refer to this as stated need. Have they indicated they need us? Are they somewhat interested or curious, or are they just willing to listen? And then lastly, maybe what technology do they actually have? Now, let's assume in this example that if we know the prospect had a CRM vendor, then they're more likely to purchase. So if they had a CRM tool that the company didn't support, they're obviously not likely to purchase. So for this reason, I went ahead and I've put Salesforce, Microsoft, Dynamics, and maybe own CRM, meaning the company's own CRM there. So these would be 3 great questions to help us determine if a client needs us or not, and we actually are able to label 1, 2, or 3 based on the question that we answer. Okay, now need is very important, and it's usually the place where people brainstorm the most information. So I included a couple examples for you there. Let's get into urgency briefly. Now, urgency data helps determine the priority your prospect is putting in this initiative. So let's just go through, and again, I've just thrown down a couple examples. Let's get some urgency questions out there that we could use in our qualification model. Are we aware of a buying timeline? Define timeline. If a prospect is interested, but maybe not interested for 12 months, that's certainly going to affect how qualified the prospect is. Depending on your sales cycle, this might fall into a 60 or 90 or 120 days. That might be a more qualified prospect. So those are my three or four options there. Engagement. How much have they engaged with us? My goodness, engagement data is fantastic. Clicks, downloads, previous purchase, maybe even current connections can be a good indication of an urgency question. Now, this data is most often found in current systems and probably can be easily classified as high, medium, and low. So this may not be a question you want to ask. It's something you want to garner. Lastly, a third option on urgency is compelling events. Love compelling events. These drive reasons to purchase a product. Now, this is most uncovered in a conversation probably, and a sales rep can determine if it's strong, medium, and weak. Now, remember, a compelling event is a time-sensitive response to an internal or external business pressure that drives action within a defined time period with a consequence of inaction. That's coming from our friend Eli at Saleshood. Big fan of compelling events. That's going to drive our urgency. Okay, so now we've got some urgency points in our qualification table that we can brainstorm with the team there. Lastly, let's just look at money quickly. What are some money points? Well, what's their revenue? You'll need to find the sweet spot of revenue that you work with. If you have high revenues and you seem to be doing well, then you might have a better chance of working with them. What are they currently getting capital? We call this funding capability. In this business, if the prospect was venture-backed or high growth, they might be more likely to purchase. And then lastly, is maybe just frankly budget. Do they have a budget? Do you have verbal from a decision maker that the budget exists, or do you have verbal from a non-decision maker that the budget exists? This can be very effective in understanding qualification. So, okay, we've gotten a lot of solid questions in here around authority, need, urgency, and money. Now, combine all of those together, you basically come out with something like this. You got 12 total questions, 3 in each category, 6 company, 6 contact, 3 questions for each. Now, we talked about 7 of those we believe we can get in the data. 5 of those we can get via the phone, and then we scored them 0 to 3. Now, I'm adding a new layer onto this. It's actually a scoring model where you actually score your qualification. Depending on how well people come out of this conversation, you actually up to 36 points. And again, I've just put in a sample, very basic scoring model. 0 to 10 is bad, 11 to 30 is good, 31 to 36 is great. This gets into the real detail of how you can actually build that qualification model effectively. So in summary here, Bant is dead. Need to be thinking about moving to Anim, but it's not enough, you guys, just to stay in the principle of Anim. You've got to get to applied Anim. The way to do that is to build the qualification table. It has key questions. It answers 5 of those categories that we talked about. Build that in then to what you do on your first call. These questions become ways to actually scientifically qualify your prospects so that they're more thoroughly vetted as you move them down the pipeline process. So with that, I'm going to finish it up here. Bant, Anim, qualification model, applied Anim is definitely the way to go. And I hope you've gotten an idea today, mostly of how you build a scientific qualification model and then how you apply it effectively in a sales process by brainstorming with your team to get that qualification model. With that, I'm going to leave you. Thanks so much for joining. Hope you have a great day. And again, please do connect and continue the conversation.